maximum salary, the company needs to be making at least 15K real revenue and probably closer to 20 grand of actual gross revenue. That's how you actually set a target. Most of us, again, if we're thinking of it as just a job, we think, I want 2 grand a month, I need to make 2 grand a month. But the problem is when you make £100 for a boot camp, that £100 isn't all yours. 20% of it belongs to the government, and they frown upon you spending it, I've been told by a friend. So you gotta remember that, again, it's not a job where you just make 100, spend 100, which is what most fit pros do, and then tax season comes around, and they're like, shit, I've got 13 grand tax bill to pay. I need to go and do some sales now, right? So you need to figure out what's that cornerstone number first of the income you want to generate. And for most of you guys, you're going to need to make 15 to 20 grand minimum a month revenue as an operator in your business before you get anywhere near a freedom business, right? You're probably going to be making at least 20 grand a month before you start taking holidays to Bali and backpacking and shit like that. And if you try and outsource yourself before that point too soon, it's probably going to fall apart. Because either the revenue isn't there, the cash flow isn't there to sustain it, or you're going to bring people, maybe you can put structure in fast, maybe you bring people in, but they're not cultured enough yet to actually take over with enough responsibility without you being there. They still depend on you emotionally quite a lot. So that's the first number, right? So your growth targets then, once you kind of know where the company needs to be at a phase 1 level, then we look at your growth targets, and that's the first side of the chart when it comes to your KPIs. So the growth targets is obviously how many sales do we need, how many clients do we need to get that 20K a month revenue. Okay, if we need 200 clients, right, how many leads do we need? Based on our conversion numbers, we're probably going to need 400 leads to get 200 clients. And then you've also got to look at your churn rate or your retention rate. We've got to maintain 90% retention as well, let's say, because there's no point getting 200 clients if you lose them all next month. So generally, your growth targets are there, and that's going to be generally your number of leads you need to make, number of sales you need to make, and the number of retention you need to upkeep. And that gives you a timeline of when you're going to reach that gross revenue number, right? And so if 20K a month is 200 clients for you, and that's going to be 400 leads, then you can whittle it down to your ads budget. Okay, our ads budget is 500 a month. We can estimate, or if you don't know, you ask me or you ask Liam Thompson, what might be an average lead cost? You'll say maybe £4, right? So for £500 a month, you can get X number of leads, and that will tell you, because you've got to work. There's what you want, but there's also what you can do with your budgets, right? And you've got to compromise the two. Your strategy is created as a compromise of your long-term goal versus your current assets. That produces the right strategy for you. So when you say, what's the best advert? What's the best way to do this? Same thing as what's the best way to lose weight? I don't know. What's your goal? What resources do you have? Do you have access to a full multifunctional facility and a private chef? Or can you only work out once a week with a kettlebell? If so, it's going to be a different strategy and a longer time to get to your goal. Right? No one factors that into their thing. So that's a few KPIs on the growth side. Leads per month, sales per month or per week, retention per month to get to that gross revenue number. Then on the other side, then you've got your cash flow actuals. So we want to make sure, okay, we're hitting 10 sales a month, fantastic. But according to our cash flow, are we keeping to our budgets? Are we growing sustainably? Because again, what if you get your 200 clients, but you spend £2 million in advertising to get them? You're going to go way beyond what your actual. So you've got to make sure you're doing it profitably. So at the same time, you want to be looking at your overall costs. What are your fixed costs each month? And we break these down as percentages of real revenue again. So we like to make sure that of real revenue coming in, let's go back to that 15,000 real revenue example. Our target KPIs there are our operating costs should be no more than 30% of the real revenue generated. So fixed costs, that's like any actual PAYE employees you have on deck, which probably is zero for most of you. Your ads, your lease, your utilities, contractors, and VAT we already took off earlier, remember? So that's not included in your operating expenses, but your software, subscriptions, things like that should come to no more than 30% of that real revenue. So to generate 15K of real revenue shouldn't cost you more than like 3,000-4,000 a month. If you're paying more than that, you're either paying for excess costs you don't need, or you should have more clientele for the assets you're paying. Then, so that's 30% there. Again, 50% is a target for owner's compensation of that real revenue. And then you've got 30, 50, then you've got 20% left, which is 15% of that real revenue we allocate towards income tax for you, and then 5% towards profits to begin with. Right, and that's because we put a lot more on owner's comp rather than profit, because then you avoid paying corporation tax a little bit. But it's really more important, if you're the owner-operator, you need to get paid a salary. Because again, it doesn't matter if the company's making 30% profit margins if you can't afford to feed your kids. Does it, really? The company is for you first, then for the company itself. So a lot of people will emphasize, like, put 30% profit away. Well, that's great, but if you're not paying yourself, what's the point? You may as well take that money for yourself, make yourself financially secure first, and then start accumulating profit. As the company grows, that percentage is going to be a bigger number. And and the other thing with that is, remember that the owner's compensation amount, that's to cover all the roles. Because you've got to remember, if you can't do the job tomorrow for any reason, or you don't want to, can your company actually afford to pay someone else to step in and do it? If not, maybe you have a lump of profit there to pay them, great, for 1 or 2 months. But is that 7K a month, or whatever it comes to, systematically being produced by the company, so if you wanted to or had to step away, you can just go, okay, there's the amount, there you go, there's half the salary, you take over, and the operations can continue as normal. So generally, up to about 20K a month, we look at those numbers. After you go above 20K a month, it's kind of a different story. After 20, 25K a month, we generally shift those percentages, and we'll start putting more into profit, and your owner's comp comes down to about 35%. Because you're at that point now have more employees, you're doing less in the company, so you get less owner's comp, but you start taking higher profit dividends. But that's a bit more advanced at that level. You should be clearing at least $250,000 a year at that point. As the company grows bigger and bigger, you take less owner's comp and just more profit shares, essentially. So that's your main KPIs, the growth targets versus the cash flow actuals. Anything else is just vanity metrics, I think, after that point, right? And then within those things, you've got your own metrics. So under lead generation, you've got some other metrics there. Like, you've got to make sure you have a budget. There's a number of leads you need. There's also your maximum threshold cost per lead. So if you're working with an ads manager or someone, you need to say, like, I need 50 leads a month, but I also can't spend more than this much money. So can you help me get a lead for this price? And the ads person is going to say either, yes, that's cool, we can do it, or no, that's not reasonable, you need to reconfigure your numbers, or maybe let's see, and let's try it out, but we don't know. Right, and so you need to go, and that's the thing, if you go to contractors, you go to ads managers or salespeople, you need to go, Fit Pros go to them without their own numbers. So you'll pay someone like a sales commission person or a marketing agency, and if they don't know what your goals are or what your budgets are, then they're just doing their job, and you don't know if it's actually working or not. But you need to tell them, this is what I need, these are my budgets, but also from your perspective, your advice, is that actually reasonable or not? Or do I need to go and reconfigure my strategy and my budgets? And so you have a better working relationship then. And then you've got some other KPIs then, then you've got more process-based KPIs. That's like outcome KPIs, and you've got more process-based ones. This is looking at your team. We like to monitor our client experience and culture. So once every 90 days, we'll do a client survey, for example, and we're going to have the clients assess our coaches and team members, give them a score. And then our coaches need to know they need to maintain an 80% plus satisfaction score from the clients. If they do, they get a bonus. If not, they get trained or fired, pretty much. So there's look at making sure your clients, and then there's your client results should be a KPI as well. We track the success. We have an 85% success rate in our 6-week challenge. One of the reasons 6-week challenges and things don't work for most Fit Pros is, one, because most Fit Pros shouldn't do them. Because 6-week challenges, the broader challenge like that is for if you have large numbers or bigger locations, right? If you have small locations, you don't need as much because you can get more intimacy with a 21-day program and still convert just as many. But if you're going to intake like 200 people a month like we do, you know, we need 6 weeks to really get results for big groups and to really have enough touch points to build relationships with 200 people. It takes 6 weeks really for us to get an effective conversion rate then. But most Fit Pros, apart from that, picking the wrong strategy, the reason these challenges and things don't work well for them is because they don't treat it like a real program or a product. It's just a trial giveaway thing for them. But we look at ours like a real solution on its own. And we have we run like a lose 6 kilos in 6-week challenge, and we track everyone's results. We can tell you how many pounds of fat have been burned in the last 3 months at our gym, right? We can tell you exactly there's an 85% of people that have done the challenge have walked away with a result. That's the KPI you want to be tracking if you want to take things seriously. And because you can say we get results, but so does everyone. But if you can show people the results,